Kia ora, g'day, welcome back. Here with another episode, this time SAS hero Colin MacLachlan talks about PTSD and when he was captured and tortured. Now, I actually know Colin. I don't know if he remembers me, but I'm sure he does to a degree. We worked together in the private security space in and out of Iraq for quite a while on part of the, I think at the time it was the NBC contract, one of the American networks. So I didn't even know we had some stuff out here. So it's pretty awesome. So anyway, let's anything goes with James English. So let's jump into this one.
And we're on, and today's guest, we've got Colin MacLachlan, SAS hero turned offer, motivational speaker. You've also been on the hit show Who Dares Wins, SAS. How are we, brother?
Yeah, good mate, good to see you.
Good to see you. First of all, thanks for inviting me into your home and thanks for coming on the show. Obviously, you've got a great story. If you want to talk about how it all started, when you first joined the army and stuff, what age, and then we'll basically take it from there. There's no questions, it's just a case of just talking. On you go, brother.
Yeah, I joined from quite an early age. I was 15, and like a lot of guys, especially joining the military and infantry, came from a kind of almost a broken home stuff going on, and the military was like a second family to me. So that's kind of how I grew up. And Mum wrote a letter, special permission to join at that age, and I made the best of it. Like anything, I never really wanted to join the army, like a lot of young guys did, but I made the best of it and got to enjoy it. And by the time I was 23, thought I'd put my papers in for selection. And like in any environment you're in, you want to be the best version of yourself and the best version of what it is you're doing. And for me, that was Special Forces. So that was it. Joined up, went down to Hereford, and I joined at a real fortunate time. I joined the right squadron at the right time, and we had a lot of quite high profile operations that I was lucky enough to be involved with, and left after my capture in 2005, and since then been involved in TV, book, motion capture, video games, charities, ambassadors, and public speaking.
Yeah, you've done
Far out. I mean, that's awesome to hear. Well, it makes sense now in terms of when I was working with him. Didn't realize that he had been captured. Like this title says, when he was captured and tortured. He was a rock solid dude when he come in, very gracious and humble, just like you see here. So I'd already been over there working with that team at the time, the UK based team, which had a reputation for only recruiting and utilising or employing former UK SF or Kiwis, Kiwi SF at the time. And there were some, I think there may have been maybe a couple of Australians at some stage, unless that was the other company. AKE was the other company, so Pilgrims Group, and then AK2. Just, in my opinion, they were great companies anyway, whilst I was fortunate to work there. And Colin come along, far out, 15 years of age, led a special permission, and then when he was 23, I like that, young, still very young, early 20s, 23 years of age, and on the UK selection. And clearly he must have cracked it at that stage. And then, like you said, really fortunate he was with the right squadron at the right time. Some high profile stuff I heard him say. And man, since getting out, I didn't hear him mention private security sector, but maybe he'll talk about it. But yeah, he worked the private sector. Then I heard other things. He's an author, motivational speaker, I think I heard. He's involved in some gaming and some other. Yeah, I'm going to have to go on a bit of a search for this fella now that he's spoken about a few things. I can't remember what they all were. But it's good to see him. For me, anyway, it's good to see him here on the camera, sitting down. Still clearly looks a bit older, as we all do. But his personality and the way he speaks still seems very, very much the same, or the way that I remember him. He was quite a mischievous, I would say, cheeky fella. When he was there, just had a really good sense of humour, and not surprising for the guys coming from that SF area. But even soldiers in general, I think, have a good sense of humour. Some might call it dark humour, but yeah, it works. I like it, and yeah, it's just pretty surreal seeing him. It's popped up on my feed, obviously, because of the types of reactions and stuff that I do, and it's very cool to see. It's good to see him. So anyway, this one wasn't a request from anybody, and it wasn't something that I searched up. I was like, Colin MacLachlan, I know that fella. And then next minute, here it is. So decided to do a reaction to it.
And you've done some magic things, man. It's when you first joined at 15 then, was that a scary part for you, especially if you didn't want to join?
Yeah, particularly. I was in with a lot of guys that were a lot older than me, a lot bigger, a lot stronger. I wasn't particularly big. I wasn't particularly fit. I wasn't really convinced that the army is where I wanted to be. I wasn't particularly enthused by violence and guns and stuff. But I found a way to make myself good at those things and make myself valuable within the environment I was in. So yeah, I kind of made the best of it and grew up quite quick.
So is that just...
Man, I bet 15, there would have been, guys in their 20s, probably even older. There may have been the odd, I don't know what the legal age is to join the military in the UK. Maybe it's 18 or something, I don't know. But yeah, even like everyone would have been older than him. And that just reminds me of, maybe not everybody, but I always felt like, and it always seemed like, I was the youngest wherever I was, in terms of not on basic or core training, because I knew there were other 18-year-olds on there with me, but just, I think, when I got to battalion, and then you just look around and you see the lance corporals, the 4 corporals, the sergeants, and then you see some of the other, the old digs that we'd refer to them as, soldiers that have been in sort of 5+ years, maybe even 3+ years, but everybody just looked bigger to me. Everybody just looked bigger, fitter, stronger, more experienced. My eyes were wide open when I when I hit battalion, but it was cool experience. So I can only imagine, what it must have been like for Colin at 15 years of age. Far out. Well, no, I can't even imagine that. 15, him and what he would have seen. I wonder what he did. I don't. Maybe that's what this guy's going to talk about. I wonder what he joined as, infantry, or
basically like adapting to your environment and just learning as you go.
Yeah, and it's a good way to look at it. It's like anything, and you look at the army historically, and that's always what they've done. They've adapted to different environments, whether it's the desert, the jungle, urban environment, and become better at their enemy in the environment they've worked in. And I guess for me, that was the same. I was in that environment. I wanted to make the best of it.
Because you're one of the youngest as well, 23. You'd passed the SAS first time as well.
Yeah, passed first time. I was 23 when I went on selection. I've probably been younger since, or probably before, but 23 is quite young. You kind of generally mid-20s to kind of early 30s is the kind of average age.
How was the training? Was it tough? And how long?
Yeah, so the training is slightly different from selection. The training, I got a week off. My OC at the time, Guy Richardson, really good guy. He doesn't stay far from here, and ended up coaching the British Lions. He was my OC at the time, and he let me away just before selection to go and train for it. I'm not sure I had a real good idea of what I was training for, and that might be a good thing, because if you know what's in store for you, sometimes you can fail yourself before you start. But we didn't have any Royal Scots in the SAS, so I had nobody really to ask. But a couple of guys that went on and failed quite early on, so I didn't really have a knowledge of it. But I trained for the things that I knew about, and the rest of it I just took each day as a time, because it's 6 months. It's quite a long process, so you kind of have to break it down like any long thing and make it work.
What happens if you...
That is awesome. I mean, what he's just shared there is great advice too, in my opinion, to anybody looking to go on selection. And I had a chat about this a while ago with Pup Johnson, about people that are wanting to know what happens almost at every stage or at every aspect of selection, so that they can prepare for it. And like Pup said, he goes, knew about the 60 clicker, that didn't help. Knew about the sand dunes, that didn't help. Knew about day one, that didn't help. Knew about the 3 days of open country navigation, that didn't help. You know, PUP obviously passed, but what he was talking about, I think, was more in terms of it doesn't help. You can know all the information in the world about the selection. One, it's never going to run exactly to the script that you have. Two, it'll never be exactly the way that my one ran or PUP's ran or Colin's ran or whoever's selection ran. There'll always be differences. And the other aspect is, like Colin just shared, you can sort of psych yourself out and self-select yourself out before you even get on selection by trying to search out and know as much as you can about selection. It's just, I really like his approach and his attitude, and to a large degree for me, like, and it's interesting, sorry, first before that, 23 for him, so 15 to 23, 8 years. He's applied for selection. He's allowed to go on there. I think I heard him say Royal Scots. So whether that's an infantry unit in the UK Defence Force, Scottish military. Sorry, apologies if I've got that completely wrong. Not intentional. And he's mentioned here he didn't know of any Royal Scots that had made it through. There wasn't anybody from Royal Scots, I think he mentioned at the time, that was actually a badge member in the unit. And his age, young, like you said, mid to late 20s, early 30s. I'd always heard that. When did I hear that? When I was on cycle in NZ. That's pretty much when I heard it. I didn't know anything about it. Since then, I've had plenty of comments on my videos, including the one where I passed both. Yeah, you wouldn't have got a look-in on selection in the UKSF, mate, blah, blah, blah. You would have had to have done it minimum 10 years, etc., etc. I was like, yep, okay. Okay, so yep, that's the UK process, so that it is what it is. But clearly, you don't have to have done 10 years. Colin here has done 8 years in the Defence Force, in the military, with the Royal Scots. Again, sorry if that's wrong. Before going on selection and passing it first time. So, really interesting. Awesome to hear. I know that there was some other stuff that I was going to say before, but it's popped out of my head now, so it must have been unimportant, which means I need to get back to this.
You injured with that during the course of the training? Is that you out, or do you need to start again? Or
yeah, if you're injured enough to not be able to make times, then yeah, you have to come off, and that's part of it, is staying injury free. It's a long time, 6 months, so you need a bit of luck as well. People talk about, oh, you just got to be fit or whatever, but I think a lot of it is luck and being able to keep physically robust, but equally as important, if not more, is the mental side of it.
Obviously, we're here today to talk about one of the major talking points, which is PTSD. It's really bad, and like I say, it's a very hot topic just now. It should be a hot topic every day. I think there's 10 troops killed themselves the last 12 days.
Aye, and
holy heck, 10 troops killed themselves in the last 12 days, or less than 2 weeks. Far out. That's tragic, man. Just adds to that overall list and loss of life post this global war on terror. Then we, experienced tragic, countries have experienced and families have experienced tragic loss of life during the conflicts and combat. But man, since the, sort of recent times, sounds like there's been way more, and there's evidence to support that as well. There's been way more people who've lost way more life of soldiers who have taken their own lives because of their PTSD. Which reminds me, in this video, and oh damn, it's on the phone that I'm recording on actually, Mr. Dion Jensen. So I'm going to keep mentioning him. I'm probably going to do a dedicated video to his stuff shortly, in and around the good news about post-traumatic stress. He's given me full access to a program and courses that he provides that he's delivered for many, many years. Awesome gentleman, does some great work in that post-traumatic stress space. And he's provided me the links so that I can share that information with those that may want to have a look into it. Like I mentioned before, and I have done a video on that PTSD type stuff based on a request. Ultimately, the individuals have to want it though. You do have to want to make the change. You do have to want to try to seek some understanding in terms of what's going on with you if you want to if you want to help, if you want the help. So we have to be willing and be kind enough to ourselves to want to help ourselves. And so if you're wanting to do that, reach out and I will point you in the right direction. And where I can, I'll give you access to those things, unless I need to send you back to Dion Jensen and then he'll give you access. He's a very genuine human being, good man, and he'll definitely help sort you out. I'm actually in the middle of going through the courses that he's got. He's got these courses broken up within the program itself, not because I feel like I'm struggling with PTSD, just so that I can have a good understanding of what is happening, what that process is, what it might look like, so that I can speak about it with a little bit more knowledge and understanding, hopefully. So anyway, back to Colin, back to the sad news that I've just heard James English speak about. 10 or so soldiers, former soldiers or current former soldiers or current serving soldiers, I didn't hear that piece exactly, who have chosen to take their life, which is sad. Let's get back
And you
to
see
this.
that every now and again, you'll get a spike and it will come to the public's attention and then it maybe dissipate without any real positive action coming out the end of it. So it'd be good to see things like this raise awareness and some positive action coming out of it. We have a lot of, probably too many military charities out there now. And if anything, it can be a bit of a minefield for veterans knowing exactly where to go. I think one of the things that we lack at the minute is a kind of 24/7 emergency helpline app website that people can tap into in the early hours when they're feeling vulnerable for whatever reason and get the support they need. And to date, that we don't really have that.
Because everything is the mindset. When you get captured in, was it Basra?
He's just outlined a blueprint, right, for anybody that would want to look into that, at least in the UK. Now, I don't know how old this is, so I'll have to check that as well. I'm not great at reading the descriptions or checking the dates of when these things have come out, so this may be, I don't know how old it is anyway, and I'm not going to look at it right now. But yeah, I mean, he's raised a good point. If that's what he's identified in terms of there being a significant gap, a 24/7 type helpline at said website, like you said, that people can reach out to in those moments when they're feeling vulnerable, like you spoke about as well. That sounds like a good gap to plug. It's interesting when he mentioned there's probably too many defense charities right now. That's definitely not on my radar to look at starting any sort of charity. But it's interesting that he would share, or that he says that with regards to military charities. I don't know of a heck of a lot. There's probably 3 that I would look to support. One of them's over in, I don't know if it's a charity, a trust. The SASR Trust is one that I would support. The New Zealand Association, SAS Association, I think it is, for New Zealand, I would support that. And what's the other one? I think it's No Duff. I think that might be the other one that I'm thinking of. But yeah, there's really only 3 that I've got in mind with regards to the memberships and percentages of that going to those charities. So one at a time. I won't divide up the amounts that's come through in memberships between 3, because I would take a percentage of all the memberships and then just give that to that charity, then next one to that charity, then next one to the other charity. So instead of dividing it amongst 3. Far out. Oh, and I think he's just about to talk about when he got captured in Basra, I think was the last part that I just heard. So I might rewind it a little bit and let's go from
That
there.
we don't really have that.
Because everything is the mindset. When you get captured in, was it Basra?
Yeah.
How long were you held hostage for?
It was only a day. I was captured in the morning and rescued that night. And like you say, a lot of that's just mindset. And for me, when I do talking, I talk about that mindset because, sure, selection and training in the SAS will prepare you for capture and stuff. A lot of it I take back to my childhood, though, being locked in a room, being beaten up. That was stuff I was used to. I was comfortable in that environment. Now, it's very hard to train people, beat them up repeatedly to train them for that. But the mindset is key to that. If you've been somewhere in your mind before, it's easier to prepare, like in any elite sport or any emergency service.
So that's obviously a difficult.
That's sad to hear. Like, man, just some of the upbringings, eh? So I just heard Colin then mention about being locked in a room and beaten up I assume by his dad. I shouldn't say that, but it's probably most likely the male figure in the home, unfortunately. Locked in a room and beaten up. Reminds me of some of the stuff that Big Phil Campion has spoken about, which I'm in the middle of doing that reaction to at the moment, where he's on the team house.
So all the stuff that you come back from the past as well, that is, like I say, mental. So you adapt and you kind of get used to it. Do you think for the things people in the army as well, do you believe in wars as such as well? Do you believe it's the way forward? Because obviously I've read that you're more chance of committing suicide coming out of the army than you've actually got in war. It's like 2 times as higher to actually die in battle. So you've got more chance of actually committing suicide, because obviously the catastrophic stuff that people must see, it's no good for like human beings to kind of see that stuff.
I think it comes down to a number of things. It's quite complex, but one of the things is we're trained for war. So we've been through war-like scenarios in the past. So mentally, we've prepared for some of it. We're not mentally prepared from when we leave and the support isn't there. And that's different to what happens to veterans when they've been in the service, where they do an element of training for war and then there's support while they're there. But when they come out, the training isn't there for things like CV, house stuff, what happens if you get in trouble with drugs, alcohol, and just paying the bills, holding down relationships that have been probably fragile because they've been in the military. Those sort of things are just the little things that can tip people over, and where the support mechanisms aren't in place, there's not a safety net to catch them. That's when you can get problems. And we already know that those guys within those middle years are probably the most at risk, even out with the military. So if you put the military stuff on top of that, it stands to reason they're the highest at risk.
Yeah, it's because
Right. Really, this guy's got some. Colin, salute, brother. Really intelligent answers, thoughtful in terms of his responses, a combination of things. Raises some really good points in terms of that support network that you have in the military, the training that you receive. You're trained for that. But yeah, the stuff when you're coming out, it's probably changed now. I know that there's units have taken or SF units, as far as I'm aware, have got like their own high performance elements or teams within the SF units themselves. And I'd like to think, I'm assuming there's a better transition period and process for those that are transitioning out of the defence force. I hope so anyway, because the stuff, especially in recent years, that people have been through over the last sort of, decade, 2 decades, going into 2 decades, the stuff that soldiers have seen, just soldiers in general, not even just the SF guys, but the defence force in general, and the things that they've seen, been through, heard, witnessed, etc. There's a lot of mental scarring and stuff there for those individuals, and some challenges and trials that they are likely going through and suffering alone. And so, I just love what Colin's speaking about so far and the things that he's touched on. Hence why I've mentioned Mr. Dion Jensen at the Lion Academy in Palmerston North. So I'll make sure I put those details and his information in the description of this video.
Because the stats are 75% of suicide are male. So who do you think is to blame then? Is it governments then are not enough for especially people who are serving in the army, for when they come out to have the safety nets there for somebody to go and speak to?
I don't know. I'm just going to mention it now. I'm sorry to cut him off. Who do you think's to blame? I don't know if that's just trying to think. Who's to blame? I don't know. The question to me just doesn't sit right in terms of, looking for not a scapegoat. I don't think that's what he's looking for, but I think he's trying to get to the heart of the issue and how it could be rectified. I think that's maybe where the question's coming from, but it could be interpreted a whole bunch of different ways. And, I've just cut him off mid-flow while he's trying to finish off the rest of his question, so I'm partly to blame with regards to that as well. But man, if the people that we vote for and our leaders that are in if they were able to communicate with the other sides or the relevant parties and avoid war, how good would that be? That would be awesome, right? I don't have the answers for that, of how to do that. But when you start looking at or asking questions like who's to blame, I think, yeah, probably much like Colin's earlier answer, I think there's a combination of things. Could be individuals, pride, ego. Could be just some individuals may just be evil and they want to work to try to profit off war or conflict or violence or whatever the case might be. So it's just, anyway, let's let him carry on with his question and hear what Colin has to say.
Because as men, especially if you're in the army, it's tough. So for people to admit they've got a problem and they've got demons in here they're battling, so I'd imagine it'd be tough to go and speak about the things they've seen, deaths or whatever. Do you think there should be a bigger safety net do you think that should get put in place when you first start the army? So when it comes out that it's already there and you kind of understand it a wee bit more?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there, and I think that there's a number of different layers that you can put in place. And certainly the blame game is part of it, who's accountable. But I think along that journey, there's a lot of things we can put in place to prevent long-term some of these issues become life-threatening. So when somebody at the entry level joins, there's a certain element of support and kind of forewarning for stuff. And post-traumatic incidents, there's a certain amount. So certainly if I speak about the capture, I did the capture. After that, no debrief, no decompression, no timeout. It was just from one job to another. And I wouldn't condone that. I just think that we can do better to help people get the best chances of not having stuff after it. And there's things in place. The other time is that little period between people leaving the service and when they've just left, because that's a critical time. And a lot of servicemen and women, when you speak to them, hand in their ID card, and the next day they feel like they've fallen off the edge of a cliff because suddenly they've nothing around them. And I think that could be an easier transition where we put people in place, back geolocated, back in their own home location with a support network around them.
Mm-hmm.
He touches on a lot of stuff there. My head is just racing, trying to allow him to speak at the same time, trying to go, oh man, there's this, there's that, there's this, and all the stuff, just in terms of the thoughts that come to my head. So I need to try to get them out. With regards to, again, Lover's answer, around that stuff, I forgot to mention, he said it's sort of been brushed over to the point that even I forgot to acknowledge it and mention it. But he said he was only captured for a day. And I think in my comments I focused more on, he was locked in a room and beaten up, he said, and his mind, when it's been like the comment that he shared, I don't think I shared this, but when he touched on another great point, when your mind has been to certain places, it can draw strength from that. It can use that, I'm familiar with this, I've been here before, I know how to deal with this sort of thing. But the fact that he was captured, and he says only for a day, but still, like, it could have been half a day, it could have been for a few hours. Captured is captured. And then I think I heard him say rescue. So I'm guessing, no doubt, that's the lads, the 22 SAS lads that are gonna be like, yep, we're not having that. We're going in to get our guys or our guy. I'm assuming Colin was caught with somebody else or other people. So hopefully we'll delve more into that and hear about that later on. But far out. I haven't even got through 10 minutes, and this is bloody nearly 30 minutes because of my rambling. Apologies for that. But I'm loving the responses from Colin. Grateful to see him again and to see him well. Really cool to hear him speak about his thoughts about things that could be weaved in. And this is where I think, the Defence Force and government could and should, in my opinion, look to leverage the experiences of former soldiers to help with those that are currently in and those that are looking to transition out. He spoke about the capture, then being out, there's no debrief, no decompression, just rolled into the next job. That just sort of reminded me of Kyle Morgan from the Radisson Blu Hotel, where he was basically on his own for like 6 to 8 hours, clearing that place, looking for survivors, trying to get them out of there, to safety while, needing to fight these terrorists that had taken it over. And there was no decompression, no debrief for him. He was looking over going, oh, what's happening over there? Oh, that's cool. That looks like that would be helpful or whatever. And it sounds like nothing was offered to him. Again, nothing's been offered to Colin. I think there's some significant learning that the units, that the government, that the military in general could take away from former serving members. You don't have to be ex-SF. That's not what I'm talking about. But there's some value and stuff in there for them to be mindful of, and which could then better set people up. Not everybody's going to stay in the army for 30, 40, 50 years, So for those people that do have that type of career, they're probably not as worried or fazed about it. For the vast majority who don't have that type of longevity or career in the military, you what's the word I'm looking for? You can lose a lot of yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. You give so much of yourself to the military that by the time you come out, even in a short period of time, you've lost a heck of a lot of yourself, your identity, your purpose, what it is that you plan on doing, because everything was connected with that, as he touched on, that ID card and your time in the military. So I'm no expert in that field, but I'm pretty confident we've got a number of experts that could shed some light on. Maybe it's better now across the board. I like to think and hope that it is, but yeah, it doesn't sound like it anyway. It sounds like the same reoccurring themes and challenges and struggles, which is sad. Anyway, I'm going to pause this one here because that is over 30 minutes now, and I just want to take this time to acknowledge and appreciate each of you if you spent any time here. As I mentioned, this video wasn't a requested one. This was one that just popped up on my homepage, and I'm really grateful that it has. I'm looking forward to going through this and reacting completely to Colin's stuff here. And I'll be honest, I think I'm going to have a little bit of a search for this guy and see what else he's done, because it sounds like he's doing some awesome work, which is great. People can and will likely only benefit from his knowledge and experience, and just seeing him and the way that he's articulating things now, clearly highly intelligent and has got some really great thoughts, opinions, perspectives, which no doubt would help many people, including me. So anyway, again, appreciate you all. Anybody going through any challenges, trials, struggles, hard times, just know that you're not alone. Keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, keep putting one foot in front of the other, and know that better days are ahead. The sun will shine again. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.